back. I'm your host, mrben, and today we are bringing you some dice thrown action from the other side of the world. I'm also joined today by fellow commentator Slip. What are we talking about today?
We're talking about a tournament at my local game store, the Dice Spot at Wavell Heights. It was bring two, ban one. Had 10 players turn up.
So in a bring two, ban one, you're bringing two heroes, essentially. That's what we're referring to, and your opponent gets to choose the hero they don't want to have to deal with, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so for the matchup that we can see here on the screen in front of us, it looks like it's going to be Tactician, Barbarian. What was the bans that took place before we got to this table?
So I was running Vampire Lord and Tactician on the day, and Glenn was running Barbarian and Paladin. So Glenn banned my Vampire Lord, and I banned his Paladin. I actually banned his Paladin because I thought he was going to ban my Tactician in testing a Vampire Lord style that I call Triple G, which is a bit more aggressive and less control, had good results against Barbarian.
So how did you feel about this matchup sitting down at the table? It sounds like you anticipated your other hero was going to be banned. Tactician and a Barbarian, how do you feel about that as a matchup?
I wasn't very happy about it because Tactician seems to run out of steam, and we all know how hard Barbarian can hit.
Yeah, that's kind of my assessment of this matchup as well. Did you have any other thoughts before we dive into it, or should I go ahead and get this rolling?
No, just sit back, relax, and enjoy.
All right, so we're going to start this match. And it looks like we're cutting decks here. Now, did you have a preferred initiative?
So in this, we play highest dice gets to choose who goes first.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so I actually chose to go first because characters like your Barbarian and Pyromancer, you really don't want them going first and getting the hit off before you've done anything. So that was my thought process behind that.
All right. So showing 3 sabers and 2 flags there. Now anytime I see that many flags, I always start to look at Profiteer. There's something about being able to get 2 offensive roll phases in a row that seems really tasty.
Yeah, so I got really lucky here, and that was actually a first roll straight.
Yeah, well, I suppose if you don't have to roll again, that probably is the correct line, right?
Yeah, that's right. I couldn't really fight those dice.
So, Constrict sitting on your opponent. How do you feel about that status effect overall?
It doesn't really have an impact, to be honest, unless people are a bit unsure about it, or the only time I've seen it have an impact is against heroes with not as nice dice spread as your Barbarian, so it can potentially affect your monks and shadow thieves, etc., that may not have the greatest dice spread. The Huntress, I've seen it be a bit annoying for the Huntress.
So, are there any Barbarian upgrades in particular that you were worried about in this matchup, or is it kind of all bad? You know, when I look at these two, it seems like Barbarian is able to really punish the Tactician along more or less every axis. He just has such a tremendous damage output, and while the Tactician does have some good defensive tricks, overall it feels like it's a little bit of an unfavored matchup in my opinion.
So I really was... Go ahead, Ben.
Oh, I was just going to say, was there anything specific that you were kind of on the lookout for, hoping you didn't see come down with regard to the upgrades on the Barbarian's board?
Yeah, so I didn't want to see Smack upgraded or his small straight were the ones I was a bit fearful of. We see here that Glenn's actually upgraded Fortitude 2, that I think is a bit of actually a red herring, so I'll have to see if it pays off for him.
Now, generally when I play Barbarian, Fortitude, it says discard this card to gain 1 CP, and that's about the way I treat those upgrades, so I'm a little surprised to see that hit the board. I know when I tried to take Barbarian and Dice Throne Adventures, I thought that backdoor healing would be kind of useful. Like, oh, he's got great damage output and he has the ability to heal, but overall, I found the healing to be so weak that it hasn't swung many games that I've played with Barb.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that.
Oh, we got a Vegas baby here. That looks like a nice result.
Yeah, I couldn't argue with that one. We got a good laugh about that.
So is this 42 to 42? I think that's what we're seeing here.
I believe I'm on 45.
Oh, okay. I'm going to make this window a little bigger.
And so here we've got the siren sound of the two sixes. I've seen this enough to know that's a trap, even though Glenn had no CP. I just thought it was a bit too early in the game to be aces and sixes.
Oh, I had a little bit of a technical issue here with my recorder. There we go. Tried to make the screen bigger, and then it threw off the framing in OBS. Got that fixed now.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, so to get back on top of this, that the targeted on the Barbarian has to feel good. Certainly,
yeah,
with him showing the willingness to upgrade healing, a more defensive-minded player playing Barbarian, being able to add additional damage to kind of push them into that line of play a little bit more, could help take the edge off. So, you know, a Barbarian that's rolling Fortitude isn't rolling Reckless or Smack or any of the other damage outputs.
yeah. So that was good that my first two turns were large straight into small straight, giving me my 3 TA to get that target on as soon as possible.
Now, looking at this from your perspective, you have to feel pretty good sitting on 4 CP with Tactician. He doesn't generate as much CP as I generally feel a little choked out on that resource with him. So having a surplus to where you're going to have options to be able to take advantage of whatever cards you're drawing, particularly looking across the table at an opponent with only 2, that's got to feel pretty good.
Yeah, I like that. And as we've discussed before, just offline, I really value hand and CP management. So the more of those resources I can keep hold of, the much better position I feel I'm in.
Now, I was going to say, I feel like a sturdy blow has to feel bad because you get denied use of your defensive ability, but there, having the feigned retreat, you're still able to kind of have a little bit of interaction on the defense and sort of salvage what could have otherwise have felt like a pretty anemic defensive moment for you.
Yeah, I'd agree there.
Yeah, the Barbarian having access. I realize Sturdy Blow requires the rolling of 2 6s, so it's not the most common power, but it does feel just a little frustrating when you look at the undefendable damage on this guy's board. Like, he just comes on so strong, and then when you couple it with powers like Stun and Concussion, where you're kind of resource denying your opponent, and the resource you're denying them is the ability to respond to what you're doing. The Barbarian, while he's a great teaching tool, he can be very frustrated, even for experienced players to play against.
Yeah, it is frustrating because, like I said earlier, with Tactician running out of steam, any TA or damage prevention on defense is worth its weight in gold.
Now, I see you've got the Profiteer upgrade down on there. Do you value trying to stack multiple ORPs in a row in this particular matchup? Do you look at that as a way to maybe offset if the Barbarian gets a stun? Well, you can get a Profiteer. Now, your percentages are a little lower, but that can kind of offset that potential advantage for the Barbarian, or is that chasing Rainbow Unicorn land, in your opinion?
Yeah, I'd have to say Rainbow Unicorn
Yeah.
land. I'm also play a style with Tactician that I call flanking, where I basically try and chase the small straights with targeted on my opponent up and have an upgraded Saber Strike because it's such a great fallback basic attack when targeted's on your opponent.
Sure.
Profiteer here was basically upgraded because um, I felt that target was going to be constantly being removed, and I wanted options in my profiteer too. But it's not usually that high on my upgrade priority list.
Yeah, it does. I realize how it seems a little silly to trace an ability that then makes you re-roll where you have to hit a six. Like there is a optimism shot through leaning into that play.
Yeah, that's right.
So overall, do you feel like basic attacks, small straights are maybe not the always the most important powers, but two of the most when you're evaluating heroes, two of the most important pieces of data? It sounds like those are lines you tend to gravitate towards.
It depends on the hero. Definitely with the tactician,
Sure.
just practicing with the tactician, I found that um, the strip just doesn't have the impact that you need. So if you can kind of bounce between tank and your saber strike, especially saber strike two and targeted's there, I think he becomes a lot more consistent. And then you've constantly even got that one TA for your re-roll if need be. Here, I
I,
just want to touch on Glenn's upgraded his skin too during his main phase one, and I'd just like to say to players, you probably should wait until your main phase two before upgrading your defense, because now Glenn's basically gone. Well, I've got zero CP, and it looks like limited cards in his hand, and he's giving me too much information.
there was a turn of phrase that people used a lot when I was learning to play Magic, which was always wait till the last possible moment to do anything, and that seems to track with what you're saying there about doing your defense upgrades during second main phase and being able to conceal some of that data from your opponent during the roll phase.
Yeah, once you start playing this game at a higher level, there's a lot of imperfect information that you can give your opponent. I think cards and CP keep your opponent guessing.
Holding those sixes, huh?
Yeah, so this time I've held my sixes. Glenn's had no CP again, and I felt like I had a bit of a feel for what he had in his hand, and I didn't feel like he was going to do like just pull a getting paid out of nowhere.
There's the samesies.
I did, yeah.
And
So
then, is there a so wild coming? Nope, nope. Okay.
no, unfortunately not. But even watching this game back, I was happy with that decision. With the cards in hand, that seven undefendable damage into my opponent, maxing out on TA was a great board state to be in.
Now, is your intent to sit on the tactical advantage and pop it for protect at the moment, like the last possible moment, or is there? I guess how do you manage that tactical advantage set? Because you've got a lot there, and I have to feel like protect is a real tasty one to be looking at.
Yeah, so the reason I keep five TA is if you have the five tactical advantage, the only real issue is what status effects. So if he what status affects me, um, I can draw a card and gain some CP and reduce its impact. Whereas if I immediately get a protect, it just opens up way too many cards in his deck that can affect it. So he can get that out of here. He can transfer the protect away. He can buy it, and what status effects can hit it. So it's more about leaving it to the last minute and taking away Glenn's options.
Well, and if you're burning those tactical advantages for protect during an attack, like during the roll phase, that definitely limits the options he may have available to. I mean, Babai is obviously still in play, but what status effects is no longer relevant at that moment.
That's yeah, that's correct. So you limit him down to the one card. Just like to point out here too, just for those learning the game as well. Um, I'm not an advocate for getting paid unless you get to spend the CP immediately. So I think Glenn's top decked it here. And although he's got a bit more threat projection with the 3 CP and the cards in hand, I think he would have been better off holding on to it and doing, like I said before, like that surprise of getting paid into a so wild, something like that.
Now, we talked about the sequence of play when that thick skin came down before, but we didn't actually engage with the card overall. How much of an impact on this matchup do you feel like thick skin presents? It seems to me like where fortitude is healing that Glenn would have to sacrifice attack in order to get advantage of, thick skin upgrades is healing that essentially you set up for him. You declare the attack, and then he. Does this put more pressure on you to try to push for undefendable attacks? How do you feel about that upgrade overall impacting the matchup?
Yeah, I didn't like seeing thick skin come down. Just that extra die and potentially, I don't know the stats in general, but I feel like whenever I play against that defense, it's healing for 4, and that takes away a lot. It basically nullifies my targeted and then reduces some more again. You see here, Tony,
I
that I've
saw the
upgraded my
Profiteer
Saber Strike
activation
too.
there.
Yes, I got a Profiteer activation the turn I did the Saber Strike too, so there we go. So I think I was going to max out on TA here, so I think I've drawn a card and then allowed that extra TA to come in.
In situations where your opponent doesn't yet have the targeted, uh, how often do you feel like you'd spend tactical advantage to draw a card, or do you always prioritize getting that targeted on there as the first expenditure?
Yeah, I'd say in 90% of the matchups that should be your first priority. It can be a little bit different against heroes with cleanse. In general, you want to get that targeted on there, and even sometimes forcing your opponent to take an ability to get cleanse can also be a good play. Just forcing their hand.
Man, even when he gets the full sword smack, you're both picking up your health dials, and at this point, the spread's still a little bit close,
Mm.
but it looks like you're starting to creep away with this one.
Yeah, it felt like I was in control of the match. However, I wasn't confident due to the amount of damage Barbarian can swing for. So I was just trying to basically keep a steady flow going. Try and put decision points onto him rather than have to put the decision points on myself.
Well, and there's certainly a world where you attack the barbarian for decent damage, and then he thick skins and ends up healing on the exchange.
Yeah, that's right.
Chasing
Here I
the
was just
saber strike
working.
there. I,
Yeah,
I
so
like
I
that.
did
So
some.
last turn he came at you with the full dice saber or sword smack, and now you're hitting him with the saber strike right back. Perfect.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, plus the targeting. And if you saw there, I did have an open-ended straight for flank, but I did some quick calculations and realised that I was most likely going to hit him for more damage, and I wasn't too fussed about the TA, so I went the saber strike. Glenn makes an interesting decision here
Doing a
where he uses
tippet.
a tippet, um, which prevents him getting constrict and prevents 4.
It's hard to say that the constrict led too much weight into that decision point. I have to think that the pressure there was just getting that extra 2 points of health. So that what that says to me is that Glenn's thinking about this as a game of inches at this juncture, where if you're willing to commit a card and a CP just for 2 health, I mean, surely he's not that afraid of constrict.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I reckon the fact he's upgraded fortitude and then spent a tippet for extra 2 heal, um, maybe he's aware that Tactician can run out of steam and his best chance of victory healing and adding a bit of stall to the Barbarian strategy.
Wow, it looks like that Fortitude upgrade might get rewarded here. Is he going to keep the hearts? Ooh, it looks like he's going to. So this is the very odd, or maybe odd's uncharitable, the unusual line of play selection here with the Paladin, or Barbarian. This is like a control Barbarian, which is not the way you think of Barbarian as trying to come in and be hyper aggressive, and it looks like what he wants to do here is play for the long game. And I think your assessment that he's hoping he can push resources out of the Tactician and put you into top deck mode when you've essentially run out of steam, that seems like his play here.
Yeah, so outside of a normal defense role, so if we talk altering and fortitude, he's now healed for a total of 8 and removed targeted. So I think your assessment there is extremely accurate. Just one note there is we saw Glenn took a smack upgrade into his hand. In my opinion, that with Barbarian and my style of play, that should be an instant upgrade. One thing here we see that Glenn's fortitude has more of an impact than we see. So he's not only healed for a total of 8 now, he's removed the targeted, so therefore my TA can only be used to inflict target again or create a protect. I now no longer have the option of having both those status effects in play.
Which, again, kind of fits into a control archetype. Disrupt what your opponent's doing, erase the damage that they've put on you, narrow their options, reduce the flexibility that they have. This is not generally the way we see Barbarian played, but he's kind of not flipped the matchup here, but he's definitely keeping parity with you.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on this turn of mine. So I'm not actually sure what I was thinking here, and this turn's actually a big Tactician misplay because I'd rolled into Profiteer 2. Basically, I had a 66% chance of getting an attack or another OIP in total, or I could have kept 2, 4, 5 and chased a straight. But for some reason, I go with Saber Strike 2 and only end up hitting him for 6. I usually do everything with a purpose, but honestly don't know what I was thinking here. It's just a misplay, and even watching him back, I'm not too sure what my train of thought or my path was there. It just feels a bit out of character, but I thought I'd point that out, that I was watching, I did notice that was a Tactician misplay.
Well, it's important to be able to look back over our decisions. Like, this is how we get better as players. If you watch your own play and all you do is say, oh, I made all the right choices every time and I only lose to variance, chances are pretty good you're not going to ever improve as a player. I gotta say, pulling those 2 6s, oh, it looks like he's going for the sturdy blow.
Yeah.
Okay, I saw him pull those 6s out with 3 CP and I went, oh, is there an ultimate coming? Nope.
Just before this turn 2, we saw Glenn use a So Wild for more heal, so he's actually up to 10 now, an extra heal. Now, yeah, so he's just rolled an overpower here, 13. So wild the 6 down to a 1, but Glenn has a bit of a sneaky trick of his own here, twice as wild.
Oh my goodness. So he was chasing 6s, just not as part of an ultimate. Wow.
Yeah, correct. It's got to be 17 and a concussion rolling my way before defense.
That was an extremely tight play. I like that a lot.
I thought I was so clever, so wilding his 6 to a 1, but he had the trump card. So my defense has got it down to 14, but I also have some tricks up my sleeve. I play it not this time to get it down to 8.
Oh, that's a big card. I've seen that 6 damage prevention absolutely decide games.
And then I've been able to hit the disengage for 3. So I actually only take 5 from the incoming 17. And I've been sitting on those cards for a while, waiting for them to have an impact like that. my style of play, I was actually more annoyed about the concussion here because, as we've discussed earlier, I like my resources, and now I've just lost a CP and a card with a hero that runs out of steam.
And at this point in the game, you're down to one CP, whereas a while ago you were sitting on that surplus of four. Like, you need those resources. That concussion seems very ill-timed for people rooting for the Tactician here.
Yeah, that's right. So I think I just settle on a Profiteer 2 here to try and get a bit of my flow going again.
Nice stack of tactical advantage. Okay. So now at this point, it looks to me like you've kind of weathered the storm that you were in a much worse position prior to this roll phase. Like, Glenn had these big turns, had bumped up in health, and it came at you with that overpower trick, which again was very clever. And now
Yeah,
you've kind of, well, you are tapped out on CP, which is never a great feeling. Uh, you haven't floundered in this turn. You've actually been able to develop some stuff to the board and look like you're in a pretty safe position.
yeah. I think the key here was just not panicking and just basically having faith in knowing how to pilot the Tactician. You can see here I managed to end that last turn, like you said, with 4 TA and a Protect on board. So I've had to take a bit of a risk, but there's a method to my madness.
Looks like we got another overpower here. Or possibly a sturdy blow. I mean, I like the damage potential on overpower, but undefendable damage also feels really good most of the time. Yikes. Overpower seems like the way he went, and that's another bad roll for the Tactician.
So he's hit me for 14 and another annoying concussion.
And with 0 CP, there's no counterplay here.
This is where planning ahead's actually really helped me out because my defensive roll has reduced it by 2. Then I'm able to double protect and actually take 0 damage for the turn while
Wow.
dealing 1 back.
Now, in a world where your previous turn, where you didn't generate that tactical advantage, you would have been in a terrible spot here. So yeah, like you said, planning ahead really kind of turned the corner with regard to dealing with these two back-to-back concussion, massive damage turns.
Yeah, concussions. I think it can be depending what hero you're playing against. It can be very underrated. Like it was actually affecting me a lot more than Glenn realized. Got the small straight here just to see what I end up doing. Let's see.
Now it looks like, is there maybe one card
Say
in
the
your
strikers.
hand here?
Yeah, I'm either down to 1 or 2. I think it might just be 1. Like the concussions really did take an effect.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
rough.
and here we go, flank. Yeah. So here we go, the flank. Just trying to get some more TA on the board. The target, it's not bad damage. That's what I like to see on defense.
Yeah, seeing no hearts come on the defensive rolls got to feel good.
So see, Glenn had not this time in his hand, and he chooses not to use it.
Interesting.
I actually like this play. Yeah, I actually like that play because it gives the Tactician player and me like false hope. Yeah, sorry, I really say that, some false hope. Now it looks like he's on 9. I'm not playing the not this time. There's more threat projection with the cards in his hand, and with my current resources, the cards that have already been spent, the chance of me finishing off with an ultimate are actually extremely low. I actually really like that play.
And with feeling good, I think he just will not die. Every time you put a little bit of damage on him and start thinking, okay, like the life differential is getting to a place where I'm pulling ahead, he has these big healing turns, and the damage that's coming at you, yes, you're blunting the impact of a lot of it, but at the cost of resources, and now it looks like you might be at that out of gas point. Is that what you were feeling at this time, or am I underestimating your Tactician chops?
No, I think yeah, that's pretty accurate. I feel like now the pressure's switched over to me, and he's in control of what's happening. Yeah, he's healed now for a total of 15 outside of normal defensive roll dice. So it's he would actually the game would be over if he hadn't have taken that control route. On this turn here, I actually got very lucky that he had spent so wild on that defense roll because if I was getting hit with a reckless, it probably would have been game set match.
What cards are going to bail you out here? Like, you need a decent attack and a good defense turn or a big attack.
I'm not too sure here.
Holding six.
Trying to think.
I mean,
Yeah,
the
I
little
was
peek
well
I got at
aware
your
of his.
hand there, it didn't look like you were going to be chasing an ultimate this turn, and you certainly don't have the CP to fund it.
No, and am well aware of his ability to one shot me as well.
Now, does just going for a carpet bomb here, is that something that you considered? Like, yeah, it's small damage, but with the targeted, it's a little better. Or wait, does collateral damage even get bonus from targeted?
No, it does not.
No, yeah. So it's small damage, but he doesn't have the opportunity to heal off of it, and it keeps the tactical advantage coming in. Is that a play that seemed like too small potatoes for this moment, or is that something you considered?
Yeah, too small. I think I was going through my head here. I don't think I have any dice mods in my hand at the time, and I think in my first roll I might have had a small straight, so there must have been a reason that I've gone for the sixes here. But we'll have to see how it plays out to see if I've made the right decision. And I'm answering a rules question from another table here, hence a little bit of
Oh,
delay.
sure.
There we go. So I've locked out into a strategic approach here, which is constricted 9 before his defensive roll.
Now, is he going to heal enough? Ooh, only 2. Okay. Man, I know anytime I'm getting down to these kind of life totals against Barbarian and I see him roll these dice, I clench up like, oh, I don't want to see hearts here.
Yeah, well, he's just played a better D. I was not happy to see that come out.
No, that's not great either. Ugh.
That's another 2, so we're down to 5 damage. He's blocked the constrict. And Glenn makes an executive decision here to block the rest of the 5, but he's not this time. So that false hope I had of being in control is slowly fading away, and now he's taking the lead.
Yes. Now, it's interesting to use the not this time here where he's actually not getting a full 6 value out of it, but, I mean, he's now set up to finish the game and has got to feel like you're probably 2 turns away from that, maybe even more.
Yeah, I think outside of an ultimate, it's going to take 2 hits to take him out.
Another heart here, although I can't imagine he's thinking he needs to chase fortitude at this moment in time. Oh, I guess that's also a straight now that I look at the numbers instead of just the images.
Yeah, it's a reckless.
Oh, man. I guess that's the end of that. You're showing 1 CP. Is there a helping hand in there? No, it doesn't look like it.
No. So here, this is where again planning ahead. Just having that little bit of extra TA on the board, and now I've rolled 2 on defense. Actually is going to allow me to make protect and not die.
Wow, by the skin of your teeth.
Yeah, so that's why when I'm trying to teach players, once we've done a little bit of just your basics, I try and say, just try and think ahead. Because people go, oh, a player got lucky here or they got unlucky. A lot of the times, if you watch some of really top players like your Johnny Sixers and your Rick May and stuff, they've been planning what's happening for turns ahead.
I think the term of art I took from poker was play to your outs. And that sounds like the kind of concept you're talking about here, which is even if you can't win the game on this turn, try to make choices that set the table for you to win the game on subsequent turns, or at least not die in this case.
Yeah, and every turn you survive is another turn you could pull that trump card off the top of your deck that swings things back in your favour. Might be answering another rule question here, or thinking. The tapping on the table says that I'm thinking. Solve what status effects? So that's not a siren sound when you're three sixes and you're against the Barbarian.
Oh, is that a tip it in hand there?
I think I might have a tip it. We'll have to wait and see.
I mean, you tip your way into a maneuver. That's a good hit here. Oh no, that's a six.
Yeah.
I mean we ended up in the same place. That's that's still a very good play at this moment in time.
Yeah, and I just one more six and it's game. Like it's like you said, sometimes friend comes down to a game of inches, and if I could just get that one more six, I could have finished him off, but it wasn't to be. But I'm happy with my manoeuvre turn there because again, it gives me my max TA, and that's a lot of options.
So this really, I mean, short of obviously winning the game outright, getting the ultimate would have been the superior play, but setting the rainbow unicorn play aside, this really gave you everything you needed because it fed you the tactical advantage, which can be translated into a protect, which can help you survive, as well as putting him within one shot distance next turn. So you were able to essentially satisfy both axes in terms of addressing the threat that's assembled against you due to your low health total, as well as put him in essentially a one-turn clock. So yeah, I agree with you. Rolling the ultimate would be better, but that's still almost the perfect play for that moment in time.
Yeah, yeah. With what I had, I was extremely happy with that play. I think there too, Glenn might have overlooked a small straight. I'm not too sure if he didn't. I swear he had 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's just a lesson to kind of slow down and not get that white light and fever. I think either way, a smack or a small straight could kill me. But again, I've used the protect we've just discussed, and I'm still in the game.
I mean, I've done it in this recording. I'm definitely a player who's guilty of reading the pictures on the dice and not always looking at the numbers, and I've certainly overlooked straights too. I'm definitely guilty of being too fast in that way.
Yeah, and another thing, just for thinking outside the square and thinking ahead, I think Glenn might have concuss in his hand there, and if I'm remembering correctly, he could have put another concussion on me, and that actually would have been a bit of a pro play at this time of the game because you guarantee that I can't draw into a deck winning game. Sorry, deck winning card. Unless I just happen to have bye and can afford it.
So I'm looking at this right here, and I see the Barbarian's holding one CP, and he's got cards in hand. You've got the small straight, and I imagine what's going through your head is, do I re-roll here and risk him having helping hand and me ending up with nothing, or do I just commit with the small straight and go from there and have a re-roll left over in case he does have some interaction? Was that what you were thinking there? Or?
So I did some calculating here, and I basically worked out that I needed 9 damage to kill him. I'm just working on averages. So I was trying to hit Saber Strike 2 plus the targeted for 9. I also felt it was the safest route because if he played a helping hand, alters my dice, I could just naturally land back the max Saber Strike 2, or I have this spare TA here to re-roll my die.
So the small straight was never going to get it done. So it was more about how do I navigate the potential healing as opposed to trying to live another turn. Is that kind of the math you were crunching there?
Yeah, that's spot on. Glenn plays his helping hand here, which I actually predicted that there would be some form of shenanigans on my dice.
I
Yeah, I
mean,
cross my fingers.
this deep in the game, having not seen Helping Hand yet, you almost have to think your opponent has it when they have that big of a grip.
Yeah, that's right. So what actually happens here is while Glenn's rolling his defense, I'm actually helping out with some rules questions, and I forget to re-roll my dice with the extra TA. At the time, I didn't realise that it wasn't actually a misplay, that I was distracted. Glenn and I are discussing it now, and we basically decided that I'd missed my window, and I was just going to have to cop that he's going to survive on 1 health, which that's fine because I can use that as a learning point of view. Where for me, this isn't actually, let's call it a misplay that lost me the game. It's actually, if you go back to where I said I had the profiteer and I was unsure why I went for the saber strike. So it's actually the end result of this game is going to be that's me chasing a rabbit and I would have killed him. So what I'm trying to get across here is sometimes the decision that just happened then isn't the reason for a result. And that's me holding it up to the camera going, yep, I forgot. And watching it back, I realised I was helping other players with rules questions, which is fine because even though it's a tournament, it's friendly, and I was just having a blast, and it was such a fun match. So what I'm getting at is all the decisions you make during the game is what causes the end result. So that turn where I passed on profiteer to me is actually what causes the end result of this game.
It is also pretty tough being a player and kind of the judge at an event, having to wear both those hats and also play well. That's a difficult position to put yourself into.
Yeah, it's fine because we've got a lot of different skill levels playing and stuff, so I'm happy to do it. It was just more confusing at the time when I had my plan and I couldn't understand why I hadn't gone through with it. But it's fine because if I just chalk that up to a slow down as well, everyone again. So this is the final turn of the game, and Glenn actually smashes me for about 1,000 here, and end up killing him on defense. So it's round one of the tournament, and it ends up 0-0. So I think that was just even if it wasn't me playing, I think it was a very enjoyable game to watch. And there we see for the camera, we're both down to 0 health.
So, overall, one thing I really like about how you acted the commentary on this and the way you engage with games in general is this circumspect way of learning from the misplays and trying to point out the lessons that will help people be better players in the future. And things like slow down, take your time, like those are so easy to say, but that's the source of huge numbers of misplays across massive swaths of players. So sitting here and providing commentary for your own game and pointing out those misplays and being able to speak with 100% knowledge of like, hey, here's the mistake I made. I think that's a really helpful service to provide the community. So I appreciate you taking the time to both provide the games for me to watch and talk about, but also sitting down and kind of dissecting this and helping other people become better players. It's a great service to the community, and we're lucky to have you.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed watching the game and seeing your insight as well and what questions are brought up. And yeah, then we've got a great community, and we all appreciate your videos, and that's why I reached out to you. So the more we can do to make players better, um, I think that's just it's like the double-edged sword, but in a good way. You're making players better, and in my opinion, when you're a better player, you have more fun because you can chat after the game about those pro plays, all those lucky dice, etc.
I've always had the kind of maybe corny philosophy of a rising tide raises all ships. If my opponent is a better player, then I have the opportunity to become better by bouncing my skills against their skills. And that concept expanded out to include a whole community, we just all become better at the game. And I think strategic thinking is a healthy life skill as well, not to get too broad here, but it's great to be able to engage with people about these games and focus on not just the luck aspect of it, but how can we improve? and I've really enjoyed talking to you about both the theories and the specific play lines across various different games. So I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. I really enjoyed doing this with you, and if it ever works out with our time zones again, I'd love to jump back on here with you.
Absolutely. We'll have to do it again, man. All right. Well, thank you again, and I guess we'll wrap it up there. So go win some games.